exit mark.
And Chris, it's hard to tell now from this side of the view, but when you were around the other side, a different angle, could you tell if there was a passenger inside this cab?
We were taking a really close look. You can see our extreme vision activated there. It does not appear that there's anybody in the passenger seat, just that male driver in the driver's seat. And you can see he's really trying to figure out what his next move's going to be here. Definitely looks like they've fallen back just slightly, but they will catch up to him. Again, upwards of a half a dozen units as he was getting onto the 101 freeway. And surely you can bet CHP has been monitoring this as well. Certainly they are going to engage him here once they can catch up. But again, LAPD in pursuit here now on the southbound side of the 101 freeway. CHP on the way out here, and this guy is definitely picking up speed despite that traffic. You can see he is not faced with many options here. He's basically stuck behind some of these drivers making their way over to the side, letting him through. But he has no hesitation ramming into some cars as he was getting onto the 101 freeway just before we joined you live at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. Rammed right into a red Camaro without any regard for anybody's safety here. He is just desperate to get away and is now doing some really erratic maneuvering on the southbound side of the 101 freeway. You can see he was going to try and squeeze between those two vehicles. Now he's decided to change his mind. He's just basically looking for any opening he can find to get to kind of lose the LAPD, but they are monitoring from the ground and from above, and they will certainly catch up. Certainly, as I mentioned, CHP on the way out here as well.
Okay, so here we are now on the southbound 101, now going into that emergency lane, trying to get around traffic with this CHP in close pursuit. Or is that LAPD? I'm sorry.
Yeah, LAPD seems to be catching up, so he's not getting very far. LAPD is not too far behind him here. Again, several units right behind him. They're going to probably, I would venture to say, pass this off to CHP, depending on how this goes here. But he's still in LAPD territory. However, being on the freeway, it's going to be CHP's jurisdiction. Looks like they are making that handoff, and now he's back on that right shoulder here. We'll see what he decides to do here. Doesn't look like he intends on getting off, but it does appear that we are now getting where he may be armed and dangerous as we speak. So again, this is a possible murder suspect, and does they do believe that he is armed.
All right. Well, he's certainly making some desperate moves, as we have seen. He's been driving on the shoulder. He has had no problem sideswiping people, and also the element of him being armed, perhaps, and dangerous, as well as being a suspect in a murder. This all adds up to what could be a very, very hazardous pursuit here, going through this pretty heavy evening rush hour traffic. This is a bad combination, a bad series of elements here that we are watching unfold here live on ABC7. Air 7 HD is, to our knowledge, the only news helicopter over this pursuit at the moment. And a warning for anybody who's in this area: if this thing does foot bail, if he does end up pulling into a neighborhood and jumping out, this is somebody who may be armed, who's believed to be armed, and also is a suspect, as far as we have been able to find out, a suspect in a murder. So this would make him an extremely dangerous individual. You're getting a close-up look now through our ABC7 technology here in Air 7. You see the baseball cap. You see the tattoo on his shoulder. He's wearing that kind of wife-beater shirt, and he's fidgeting around in there in the cab of this pickup truck, and doing some pretty suspicious and scary things thus far as he continues southbound on the 101 freeway, now approaching Tampa. So he's this would be what, Woodland Hills, I believe?
Yeah, we're making our way through Tarzana, just past Tampa Avenue, and you're right, Mark. He's really fidgeting around in there. Sometimes these guys, depending on the situation, might be more laid back. This guy's almost hunched over the wheel, just looking for some space to squeeze through here. And LAPD really doesn't have many options. You know, we always talk about the pit maneuver and the spike strips. None of those are an option. Once you get on the freeway, it's a whole different ball game. And even once this comes to a stop, it's going to be a very scary situation because of all of the pedestrian traffic surrounding this pickup truck. Again, this is an armed and dangerous suspect. LAPD right behind him there. They're going to give him a little space, but they are not going to lose him. They can't afford to lose him because of how dangerous he is suspected to be. But again, we're southbound now on the 101 freeway here in Tarzana as this chase continues. We were here earlier, well, not far from here anyways. This started as a Devonshire division following, and then made its way down here to the west end of the valley towards the 101. He got off at Winnetka, got on at Winnetka, got off at Topanga, did a little circle, and now made his way back onto the 101 freeway, heading towards the 405. So that's where we are. We're making our way through Woodland Hills here, and he is still doing freeway speeds upwards of 60 miles per hour, according to our real-time tracking there, which is about normal for this area. But a little while ago, when he was on the 101 the first time around, he was getting close to 100 miles per hour. So he doesn't have any hesitation to step on it if he needs to try and lose the LAPD here. But it does appear that he's now in Encino, and looks like he's got an inhaler of some sort. That is an
asthma inhaler. I have one of those. It looks exactly like that. That's an asthma inhaler he just hit. He just took a dose. So on top of all this, he's in some physical discomfort right now as well and dealing with this. So you can imagine the stress level here is extremely high, both for him and for the pursuing officers.
That's exactly right. The adrenaline's pumping on both ends, and if he's already got an existing asthma condition, that will exacerbate things. So certainly his physical condition now being taken into consideration here. Again, unclear whether he's under the influence of any other narcotics or alcohol at this point, or how they managed to track him down. But certainly what we always want to remind people is that the LAPD has more intelligence than we do up here. So depending on what they know about this suspect, they may be trying to get family members on the line, and if they have a cell phone number for him, they may try and contact him. But this does appear to be a desperate suspect trying to outrun police here, and it's going to be a very tenuous situation once this does slow down and come to a stop, and we hope it does. Rather see it off the freeway, just based on the amount of pedestrian traffic during the rush hour like this, where police just have so few options. The best scenario obviously would be if he decides to just give it up and surrender, but that does not appear to be happening so far.
Very aggressive driving, and from what we've been able to see from the extreme vision view from Air7 HD, kind of an aggressive stance behind the wheel. He's been leaning really forward in his seat, hunching over the steering wheel, just looking like he's desperate to get away, which clearly he is. And that has been demonstrated throughout this pursuit with some of the maneuvers he's been making. He sideswiped a car on a freeway off-ramp, a red Camaro, and has had a number of near misses and going through red lights and now just driving around traffic, putting a lot of people in danger. Christy, where are we now? We're on still in the southbound 101. What part of town?
Coming up on the southbound 101 here at Balboa Boulevard, so we're making our way closer to the 405. We'll see if he decides to jump on the 405 or stick with the 101, but definitely exhibiting agitated behavior. He just looks for any opening, coming very close with another vehicle there. Some of these folks actually letting him through. Now he's off at Balboa Boulevard. We'll see if he decides to go north or south. We'll have a couple of options here, or maybe get back on. He was just encountering too much traffic, I think, there. Was getting really frustrated, and now he's southbound on Balboa, coming up on Ventura Boulevard.
Okay, well, the traffic's not going to get any better for him. Whatever he was trying to avoid or evade traffic-wise is not going to improve getting off at Balboa and heading toward Ventura Boulevard at this time of day. He is, looks like now he's going to try to get back on the 101 perhaps. He's now heading...
Yeah, a game of cat and mouse. You know, he's looking, I think, for pockets where he can actually move around and get away from some of this traffic. Unfortunately, this is Los Angeles, and at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to get away from the traffic. At this point, he just wants to get away from police, making every attempt to try and evade those officers behind him. CHP was setting up to get involved here on the 101, but this is now back in LAPD's jurisdiction, and he is continuing now northbound on Balboa Boulevard, just past Burbank Boulevard, and it does look like he's got a little bit less traffic to deal with here. Again, I think the 101 was just, twice he tried it, and twice I think he was just encountering too much frustration, and he does appear to be very agitated. As we mentioned, looks like he's now rolled up the window for some reason, but he's picking up speed too, definitely going above the speed limit here, upwards of 55 miles per hour according to our real-time speed tracking here at Air 7 HD. LAPD right behind him, pretty much doing similar speeds. They can manage him at this speed. If he goes a little bit slower, they may even set up for a pit maneuver depending on the surroundings. But it does look like they've got a little bit of an opening here. Minimal traffic on Burbank, on Balboa Boulevard for the time being. Now he's got a little more to contend with, pulling over to the right, maybe setting up for a turn, just looking for an opening to squeeze by here. But LAPD is right behind him, so they're not going to let him get too far, guys.
He's boxed in right now. He can't. There's no place he can go to
really
at the
boxed
moment.
in. You know, at one point earlier, he just jumped right over the concrete median. Would not surprise me if he gets desperate enough to just jump the curb. He just appears to be that agitated. He just needs to, or just wants to get away. He just has no intention of pulling over here. They rarely do. And obviously, facing the charges that we suspect he is facing, he just is going for it. Now pulling onto a surface street here off of Balboa Boulevard, doing a complete U-turn, actually, and he's got, again, upwards of a half dozen, I count almost 8 black and whites right behind him. Again, this is all LAPD's pursuit at this point. CHP never actually did get involved, but LAPD hot on his tail. He's back on the southbound side of Balboa Boulevard. LAPD's airship is now overhead, tracking his each and every twist and turn as he makes his way through the west side of the valley here. Again, southbound on Balboa, going to be approaching Burbank Boulevard, and then the 101 once again. So he's just doing circles until he runs out of time and runs out of gas. Time is on the officer's side here. It just depends on what he wants to do, how he decides to play it. Just a desperate situation for both police and this suspect as he tries to get away.
Well, in the past year, we've seen increasingly with pursuits, when they get too fast, too crazy, officers will pull back and go into tracking mode, but we are not seeing that in this case, and that speaks to the severity of what this individual is likely wanted for, and that is murder. So they are staying very closely behind, and this is a very dangerous pursuit, but they are opting to not go into tracking mode, probably because of what he's wanted for.
Right. They can't afford to let even the possibility of him getting away or out of their reach. He is, to our knowledge,
stopped. Looks like he's come to a stop here again, right at the 101. Looks like he has come to a complete stop.
He's stopped.
Doors
because,
closed.
yeah.
Doesn't really stop the vehicle, but he's, well, it looks like he, I mean, he could theoretically turn around there or squeeze through. He's acting a little bit less aggressive at this point now. Looks like he's still keeping it going, and there may be somebody else in this. Okay, it looks like I actually do see a passenger. Yeah, we've got 2 people in that pickup truck now. We were over on the other side earlier. Didn't appear that there was anybody else in there, but certainly now 2 people in that pickup truck as he navigates these streets here. He's turning on to, looks like he's near the Granada Hills exit, but he's getting onto the 101 freeway on the southbound side at Balboa Boulevard. So he's continuing the pursuit onto the freeway here in Encino. LAPD going to follow him back onto the freeway, and CHP once again will be tracking this situation. Looks like he's got a little bit less traffic at this specific juncture here in Encino, but he's hugging that right lane. Doesn't really appear that he has a specific destination in mind, guys. When he goes on and off the freeway like that, it just appears to be a tactic to try and lose police. Of course, it's not happening. Upwards of 8 to 10 police officers behind him. LAPD's airship overhead. If they have to pull back, they've got the airship immediately overhead, so he won't get very far. They're certainly not going to lose him, and they have no intention of doing so. Again, an armed and dangerous suspected murder suspect here on the 101 in Encino. He's going to be approaching the Sepulveda pass opportunity here at the 405 coming up in just a moment. We'll see if he decides to stick with the 101, but he does have a little bit less traffic at this specific point. But up ahead, as I look out the window, it's going to slow down pretty quickly here. I can see the oncoming traffic on the northbound side is much slower, but he's going to face some heavier traffic here. Wouldn't surprise me if once again he decides to jump off before getting to the 405.
Wow.
For the time being, though, he's remaining on the 101 freeway doing manageable speeds. But again, I don't think he's got much of a choice. They are really on his tail. They're still keeping up with him. Despite these erratic maneuvers, they are really keeping a tight distance between them and him. As he weaves through, they're weaving through, and now he's back over to the number 4 lane, the number 5 lane, as he approaches this exit ramp here. Looks like he's sticking with the 101 freeway, staying on the freeway, just trying to take this as far as he can. And it does look like he's going to encounter some really heavy traffic in just a moment. So we'll see what he decides to do. He may just end up on the shoulder once again. But LAPD still behind him here. And again, we are waiting for CHP to engage as well.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Are you seeing any elements of the CHP involved in this, even further back or perhaps up ahead, clearing some of these on-ramps? Now it does look like he's getting on the 405. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are coordinating. I do not see them in sight, but it does look like he's getting on the 405, going to make a 405 southbound as he makes his way towards the Sepulveda Pass, where traffic is not looking too bad. This is reverse commute here, so southbound at this hour is actually pretty light. Northbound traffic is where all the heavy delays are, but as he makes his way into the hills, it looks like he's got really light traffic on the 405 as I look out ahead from Air 7 HD, and you can see he's now entering the 405 freeway. LAPD still behind him, and to your point, Mark, CHP is coordinating. They will be getting involved here very, very shortly, and of course the LAPD airship overhead as well. In fact, I see 2 LAPD airships overhead, so it's just a matter of time before this is all over. We'll see how much gas he's got in the tank. But again, you can see very, very light traffic on the 405 freeway as we make our way into the Sherman Oaks area through the Sepulveda Pass. He'll be coming up on Skirball and Mulholland a little bit here, and he's got the road to himself. So that'll provide some opportunity for the LAPD here. Unfortunately for the airships, however, there is some really low cloud cover on the other side of the hills. Once he gets into West LA, it's going to be a challenge not only for the LAPD, but for us up here in Air 7 HD as well, because of the fog and the low clouds awaiting us on the other side here. Once he gets towards Sunset is where the visibility really starts to drop off. But again, a number of LAPD units behind him still. These are Devonshire units. This originated in LAPD's Devonshire division, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 black and whites following him very, very closely. Let's see if we could zoom in here. Looks like our real-time speed tracking clocks him at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. So that's about freeway speeds. But again, at one point he was doing over 100 miles per hour on the 101 freeway. So fortunately, he's slowed things down a little bit. That window is rolled back up on the driver's side. But we saw earlier as he was making his way through here, he had an asthma inhaler. He was getting really frantic, fidgeting around in the driver's seat as he was trying to navigate some of the streets, getting off at Topanga onto the 101 freeway, taking us on a joyride virtually for the last half hour or so. But now on the 405 southbound, and we do know that there is a passenger inside this vehicle. So we have 2 suspects on the run here in the Sepulveda Pass southbound on the 405. LAPD continuing the pursuit. CHP again still on the way out here, but very little traffic to contend with. If he slows down enough, maybe they'll be able to set up for a freeway spike strip. That is very, very rare, but not unheard of. We have seen it before. LAPD out here, you can see the airship near the top of your screen, and upwards of 7 or 8 black and whites right behind him. I mean, when do you see the 405, even at this time of day, southbound traffic is almost empty on the 405 freeway, guys.
It appears they closed it down.
Yeah,
sorry, Mark. They must have shut it down because that's just unheard of.
Yeah, he's got some traffic up ahead. Yeah, but at this juncture right here, he's got a lot of room to play with here and some room for the LAPD to work with as well. But I do see some cars up ahead. I don't see any traffic breaks, but as you mentioned, certainly would be not surprising at all if they attempt to start shutting down some of the exits up ahead of here, or entrance ramps, I should say, to try and shut down the freeway. But it does appear he's got the road to himself for at least another mile or 2 as he makes his way in towards West LA. The problem is we're just about a half mile away from some really low cloud cover, and that's going to impact, again, not only the LAPD airships, but us here in Air 7 HD as well, as this pursuit will, in just another minute or 2, disappear into the cloud cover of this marine layer that's moving north in our direction. But you see the LAPD continuing the pursuit in the number 2 lane now as he's appear to be much less erratic. And I think a lot of the agitation that we saw earlier was mainly from the traffic. He was just desperate to get away. No real clear destination in mind. Just going on a complete joyride here as he tries at every cost to get away. And he's not getting very far. But again, an armed and dangerous suspect continuing the pursuit here. You can see that marine layer near the top part of your screen. All of the heavy traffic northbound on the 405 coming towards us here, and about 10 LAPD units right behind him as he makes his way towards Sunset Boulevard.
And we're seeing some video on the right side of our screen now of some of the close calls when he got off in Chatsworth area. It's scraping a red Camaro and then just exhibiting a lot of aggressive driving moves. You can see here as he tries to make his way through traffic.
Everybody's going around.
You're going to see him right here trying to get around these cars and just putting a lot of people in danger throughout this pursuit that's been going on now for more than 30 minutes, I believe. As Chris mentioned, it began in the Devonshire division with a following. This person believed to be a murder suspect, and there is someone in the passenger seat as well. And now, unfortunately, we're going into some cloud cover, and it's going to get a little more difficult to follow this. Is this video from earlier? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
This is still video from earlier now as he was on the 101 freeway and driving into that emergency lane to get around traffic. We all know that's an illegal maneuver. You're not allowed to be in that lane unless your vehicle is disabled or you're having some kind of an emergency. You need to pull over from the freeway and just going in and out of lanes, trying to get away from the police. LAPD in close pursuit of this individual. As last check, they were still in pursuit. We don't believe that the CHP has taken over yet. But you can see just a very aggressive driving stance, too, being hunched over the wheel, sitting very forward in his seat, and now trying to squeeze through traffic one more time here. This is, again, video from earlier on the 101 South near Warner Center, going through the west side of the San Fernando Valley, where the pursuit has been for the most part, but now that individual is on the 405, heading toward the ocean, hitting a marine layer, which is unfortunately obscuring our view right now, which is why we're showing you some of the video that happened earlier. And hopefully we'll be able to reestablish our sight of the vehicle as he makes his way down the 405.
Yeah, Air 7 HD right now trying to maneuver around the marine layer, which means we're going to go higher and a little further inland and see if we can pick this up on the other side. That's assuming that it gets to an area where we can then begin to follow it again. But for right now, Air 7 HD kind of up above the marine layer clouds while this individual continues below. But you're seeing again on the right, yes, scraping that Camaro. That's about a minute or so after we picked this up. Actually, right before we came on the air with it, that we were watching that, and then by this time we were on the air. But yes, he had that scrape and so many close calls over this period of time. We're trying to find out who's who in this because they're in pursuit of a murder suspect. But there's a driver and a passenger, so we don't know if it's the driver who's the suspect or the passenger who's the suspect. And we're going to try to find that out and get that information to you. But again, this is a murder suspect believed to be armed, and the level of danger here is palpable. And so something that the police are having to deal with. And again, right now, they don't have the air cover. So if he was going to try to shake them at this point, it would be a little bit easier for them to do that because they don't have their police helicopter. The same clouds that affected us, that forced us to turn around, have forced, we believe, LAPD to turn around as well. They have to be very careful about flying under that marine layer because it can get so socked in that they all of a sudden can have real visibility problems. And in a helicopter, that is something you cannot work with. So what we're having to do is try to fly around it. I'm looking at a kind of a closed circuit picture of Air 7 HD right now as it's trying to fly around that marine layer, flying through South LA. It's going to cross over the flight path of LAX and be vectored through there, passing over the marine layer and trying to catch this pursuit on the other side of this thick bank of clouds. We are over another freeway at the moment. So hopefully we'll be able to rejoin this fairly quickly, assuming it does continue on the 405. But yeah, last point, seen on the 405 southbound, and he was being less erratic, as Chris Christie was pointing out. The suspect, his erratic driving seemed to be a result of the traffic, a result of the fact that he was surrounded by so many other vehicles. And once that kind of dissipated, he was able to calm down and made it a lot less erratic and potentially dangerous for fellow drivers.
And it did seem that the authorities were able to perhaps anticipate his move, because when he got onto the 405 freeway, there was not a sole person on that freeway for a good 5 minutes or so while we were following it. It did appear that the freeway had been closed to give this person some space and put other people out of danger. But then, as Chris Christie reported, there was some traffic ahead, so eventually that brake only ran so far, and he ended up back into traffic, which we believe is the case right now on the 405 freeway, somewhere on the 405, most likely in traffic, trying to get around traffic perhaps. But we're going to try to get over that way, get around this marine layer, and reestablish our view of the suspect if possible.
Yeah, and the reason we're covering this, of course, is that the level of danger here is pretty high when you've got a suspect this desperate. And we cover these things for reasons of public safety. The public needs to know, in fact, if this sort of a dangerous individual might be heading into their neighborhood, and whether he might head into their, jump out of this truck potentially and run into their homes. We have seen that so many times over the years. Dallas Raines here to talk about the weather and the fact of this marine layer and what these pursuing helicopters are up against. Dallas?
That's right, Mark. And the level of cloud there is only at about 1,500 to 1,800 feet. And when you look at the map we're going to show you, you can see the marine layer clouds extend all the way inland. The car is pursuing southbound right now, and there's a huge batch of it. And it's going to be a while, at least about 10 miles before he runs out of the marine layer if he stays on the 405. Once you get just south of Hawthorne there, you will be getting out of it if he remains southbound. But you can see that, Mark and Michelle, a big surge to the marine layer. It's been down there all day. Many of those areas on the South Bay have not seen the sunshine at all.
Well, I love the accuracy of this map, Dallas, that shows exactly where the marine layer is right now and where it'll break up on the 405.
Yeah, amazing shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can follow that right along the 405, right there where you see those arrows. And you can see as you continue to move southbound, as I mentioned, just south of Hawthorne there, right in that area, you're going to run out of the marine layer back into clear VFR conditions.
Okay,
All
Dallas,
right. Well,
thank you.
Yeah, we'll see if he ends up there. And I wonder if we could take the picture from Air 7 HD as it's heading through this marine layer. That's it on the left. So we've had to break away from the pursuit for the moment. But you see what we're up against is the visibility problem that makes it a hazard basically for air traffic, coupled with the fact that there are a number of helicopters out there and anything else that might be out there. It's just for the safety of everyone involved, including, by the way, the law enforcement helicopters. The video on the right is the video that we have seen, have been watching this suspect in some of the desperate moves that he has made, getting on and off the 101 freeway, running red lights, as you're seeing there. This, I believe, is Balboa Boulevard. No, it's Topanga Canyon. And the very close calls he's had during some of the really heavy traffic.
All right. Well, we're told we're going to keep an eye on this. Chris Christie will continue to monitor the situation from Air 7 HD. And if we can reestablish our view of the suspect, we will go back to it. But in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll move on to some other news, and we'll keep you updated on that situation. A shocking discovery on a hiking trail in Calabasas. The LA County Sheriff's Department says a Caltrans worker found human remains on Calabasas Road near the 101 freeway. As Eyewitness News reporter Leo Stallworth tells us, investigators say it is the body of a man.
After setting up their crime scene here for most of the day,
left here in Santa Monica, coming up on Colorado, making a right turn westbound towards PCH. He may decide this will actually take him onto Ocean, and he may ultimately end up on PCH. But again, I could tell you that both Santa Monica PD and LAPD hot on his tail. You see he's going right through a red light, a number of cars coming to a stop there. Of course, a lot of these folks are also hearing the loud sirens behind this murder suspect, and so we've seen some of the traffic voluntarily pull off to the side and allow for this guy to continue on. He's now southbound on Ocean here in Santa Monica, a very busy area right over some construction cones. We are coming up on a construction zone. You can see he's now skirting the double line. Oncoming traffic on the northbound side, back on the southbound side. Santa Monica PD takes this very seriously, and they are not known to engage in pursuits. But again, this is a wanted, armed and dangerous murder suspect. And apparently, I'm being told that the murder suspect is actually the passenger. So we've got a dangerous driver who has apparently some kind of an asthma condition. We saw him with an inhaler earlier. He was getting really frustrated behind the wheel. We've got a suspected murder suspect on the passenger side, and we also made a visual of that passenger smoking a bong while this pursuit was going on. Earlier, we saw both the driver's side and the passenger side windows rolled down. Now both windows are rolled back up, and we are continuing southbound on Ocean here in Santa Monica, approaching Venice. As we make our way in towards Venice, you can see there happens to not be much traffic right here. Looks like he's making a turn off of Pacific here in Santa Monica. He'll be coming up on Main Street, a bicyclist right off his nose there, and a lot of car traffic heading down towards Venice. Again, you can see he's now traveling eastbound through Santa Monica. PD not far behind him. We'll pull out in just a second and see if we can spot some of those black and whites. You can see 1, 2, 3 that I count right now, and he's coming up, I believe this is Main Street. They're making a southbound turn onto 3rd Street, as you can see from our Sky Map 7 here. Southbound, or I should say northbound on 3rd Street, as he does a basic circle here in this residential neighborhood in Santa Monica. Again, we were on the 10 freeway as Air 7 HD kind of made our way around the marine layer. LAPD had to pull off with their helicopters, but now everybody is back over this guy as the skies have cleared a little bit, at least enough for us to continue the chase here. And LAPD down there on the ground doing an excellent job, along with the Santa Monica Police Department, as they continue to follow this guy. Not going to let him get away as he twists his way through Santa Monica. You can see he doesn't appear to be doing dangerous speeds, not quite as aggressive as we saw earlier, but certainly continuing about 30 miles per hour here through Santa Monica. If they can catch up to him here, there is a distinct possibility they may consider a pit maneuver, but at this point it's just a little bit too early to tell. Again, they're going to have to catch up to him here, and also they're going to have to lose some of that other traffic that you see down there as we make our way, again, now eastbound through Santa Monica.
Well, now we have the added danger of pedestrians and people on bicycles. You can see the bike lane right through the middle between those 2 stretches of roadway there. So hopefully, people will be keeping a close eye out for this person and paying attention before they go through intersections or whatnot, and we won't see a collision with a pedestrian or a bicycle. It's dangerous enough for anyone in a car right now, let alone someone walking or on a bike.
Right. This is
and we've
Pico
seen a couple
Lincoln.
of collisions.
Pico and Lincoln right now. This is a very busy intersection area of Santa Monica. Looks like he's going to try to go through this.
He was going to make a left on the Lincoln, but he's actually approaching a parking lot here. Looks like it may be a 7-Eleven parking lot.
Oh, boy.
And the chase may be coming to an end here, depending on what he decides to do. He's made his way into a 7-Eleven parking lot at Pico and Lincoln here in Santa Monica. He has the opportunity to cut through. It looks like he is cutting through, and that'll put him back onto Pico. Somebody's screaming out at him, another pedestrian off the side there. They have no idea what's going on, but you can see police continuing to now follow him through this parking lot, back onto Pico, and he'll continue eastbound on Pico Boulevard. So really, just hard to make of what his intentions are here. There's no real rhyme or reason, and again, as we've said for the better part of an hour now, he just doesn't have a clear destination in mind. He is taking police for as long of a joyride as he possibly can, and now we are here. We find ourselves in West LA here on Pico Boulevard, guys.
And we should keep in mind, this is a murder suspect who's believed to be armed. So as we watch all of these maneuvers, all of these times when he's moving slowly, potentially interacting with the public, with somebody yelling at him there a second ago, this is considered to be a very dangerous individual, both for what he is alleged to have done and what he could potentially do, given the possibility that he may be armed. So let's put this out there for everybody in this area right now as you watch this thing pass by. By now, I would imagine a lot of people know what's happening because it's been happening now for the better part of an hour here on ABC7. Not quite an hour, about 40 minutes. But the word's gotten out, so people see this thing coming and they want to go out and they want to look at it, they want to see it. Not a good idea. This is a dangerous individual, at least as far as what is suspected of him. And as we see people standing there on the corner, any place that he bails out is a potential hostage situation, potential assault. Anything can happen, and we have to be very mindful of that. People on the street, and there are a lot of people on the street at this point, watching this thing go by.
Absolutely. This time of the day in this neighborhood, a lot of folks out and about heading home from work, and a lot of pedestrians walking around, students here at Santa Monica College at the campus here. Then the top of your screen, that's going to be the south side of Pico Boulevard as he makes his way past 19th Street here. Looks like they were about to open their doors there. In fact, some of those officers did open their door at the 7-Eleven parking lot about a couple blocks behind us, but they continued the pursuit as he made his way onto Pico Boulevard. Now we're making a left turn, going to be heading towards, taking a left onto Virginia Avenue, it looks like. And again, LAPD continuing the pursuit off of Pico onto Virginia Avenue and in the northbound direction as he continues to weave his way through West LA. Again, two suspects in that green pickup truck, a driver and a possible murder suspect in the passenger seat. We're also told from authorities that this guy has an apparent affinity for long rifles. So certainly they're dealing with some information that we are not privy to, but they have information that is definitely giving them pause. They are definitely treating this very gingerly as they keep their distance behind him. Definitely not going to lose him, but they're also not going to encroach on him too suddenly. They're going to be very careful when they decide to bring this pursuit to an end. They're going to be very, very delicate and methodical as they approach this guy. You can see, I see about maybe 12 car lengths between that first primary unit and the suspect himself as he comes up on the Metro Link. You can see a number of black and whites still in pursuit here, more than we usually see here on the part of LAPD. I counted again upwards of a half a dozen. Primary unit, a secondary unit, a supervisor on the scene down there, all continuing to engage this suspect here in West LA, guys.
Yeah, thankfully, the driver has at least slowed down because we are seeing a lot of people out and about in this area of Santa Monica. A lot of people out on the sidewalks and on bicycles. As you mentioned just a minute ago, he passed Santa Monica City College. We're going to have a lot of people out and about. Just really raises the level of danger, not just toward people in cars, but people who are walking and biking this evening, trying to get some fresh air, trying to get to or from classes, whatever it may be. This is not a good place for a pursuit.
He's on Olympic Boulevard now, and I believe he's is he now heading eastbound on Olympic, so he's going to start heading into L.A. here eventually, into the west part of L.A., crossing what appears to be, I think it was at Stewart, Olympic
and Stewart, right. turning north onto Stewart, guys.
Onto Stewart, okay, from Olympic. So again, kind of staying in this area, West LA, Santa Monica area. He had been in through the valley, the northern part of the San Fernando Valley for much of this pursuit, and then continued south on the 101, and then got on the 405 south, where he briefly lost his pursuing air cover at the very least, because of the low clouds and the marine layer, the effects of which you're seeing here. It's kind of shrouded in that cloud cover. We were able to rejoin this and get back on this and alert the public. There's a guy with his phone out getting shots of this guy. He's on Stewart at Colorado. This is still in Santa Monica. You can tell by the street signs. They're different from LA street signs. They're bigger, and they got the big yellow stripe across the top of them. So we can tell what jurisdiction we're in based on the signs. And this is an area that is less touristy, less crowded with pedestrians, so that's the good news. The bad news, of course, is that he hasn't given up yet, and that there are 2 people in here, 2 felony suspects at this point. One's a murder suspect, one's felony evading, and I would think accessory to this person. Oh, great. All right.
That's
you can see
not a good thing to do.
A lot of folks watching this and trying to get involved. Of course, the last thing we want to see here, he was, again, eastbound on Colorado Avenue, guys. Again, LAPD continuing now on the surface streets of West LA. We have 2 suspects inside that vehicle. Again, both believed to be armed and dangerous as this pursuit continues. However, I think it's worth noticing here that relative to the driving we saw earlier in the pursuit, he does appear to be, of course, just as I say that he's going to get really erratic here, but he did appear to be slowing down at least a little bit and driving a little more carefully right through another red light here. That was going to be Centinela, so we're now continuing on Ohio Avenue just past Centinela here in West LA.
And Chris, you mentioned that the murder suspect is apparently the passenger, so there is that potential that the driver is being ordered around here, that he may be doing this against his will. There is that chance.
Yeah, there is that possibility, and that is that's unconfirmed, but that's what we believe at this point. We believe it may be the passenger, and if that is true, then that would certainly set up a possibility of somebody being held under duress here. But again, we don't know exactly how police managed to track down this pickup, if it's a stolen pickup or if this vehicle belongs to the driver himself. That's still pretty much unclear. Again, this started on the north end of the San Fernando Valley just before 5 o'clock, and now we've made our way here into West LA on Santa Monica Boulevard on a busy Wednesday afternoon during rush hour, just past Brockton Avenue. You can see he is continuing to run these red lights here. No real rhyme or reason, but a lot of desperation just every step of the way. You could just tell he has no intention of stopping and every intention of trying to evade police here. And again, the latest information that we have is that police are aware that this guy has a past with long guns. Long rifles appear to be his weapon of choice, and the circumstances obviously unclear in regards to the original one, which was attempted murder or possibly a murder suspect. But again, a very dangerous situation, and again, for all those reasons, they're going to treat this very, very methodically. Over the double yellow lines, back into oncoming lanes of traffic here in Santa Monica on Santa Monica Boulevard, and now it looks like he's going to try and just weave his way through here as he encounters a little more traffic. And I can tell you, as I look up ahead at Santa Monica Boulevard towards the 405, it's pretty much bumper to bumper. So he's basically going to ride the median here unless he decides to pull off of Santa Monica Boulevard. You can see he's basically riding that turn lane over the center lines, oncoming lanes of traffic, but those eastbound lanes of Santa Monica Boulevard are really, really congested. Looks like, once again, he gets frustrated and immediately gets off, tries to find clearer pasture.
All right. Well, yeah, as he heads toward the 405, it's going to be real problematic. Again, this is one of the most congested parts of the city at pretty much the most congested part of the day. And so he's going to run into that, especially in this part of town on these streets. Santa Monica Boulevard, he's on Colby, approaching Iowa. You see him running a red light there. This is a residential area. People in the area should be warned that he is going through and that they should lock their windows and doors and make sure they stay inside. Don't come outside to either engage or take pictures or look at this or whatever you may be inclined to do, as he's turning left now on Nebraska Avenue, and I believe he'll be continuing then eastbound on Nebraska from Colby. Again, through this residential area, you see people walking around. A lot of pedestrians in this area. There are colleges nearby. There are. It's a pretty walkable neighborhood. So there's coffee shops and the like, and stores, and people are going about their business. It would be pretty common to see people walking around, walking their dogs, riding bikes, and otherwise being out and exposed, in this case, to this individual driving through their neighborhood and presenting a hazard.
Yeah, no less dangerous. Even though he's on these surface streets, you still see a lot of people walking around here on this cloudy afternoon, I would say, here in West LA. Again, he was just on Nebraska, pulled off onto Purdue, onto a surface street, and you can see he's trying to navigate some of this traffic again. He's slowing down a little bit. He's showing signs of erratic driving, and then he kind of just takes it easy for a little while. We do understand that one or more of the folks inside this vehicle may be under the influence. We saw the passenger smoking out of a bong earlier. We saw the driver taking a puff out of an asthma inhaler earlier when he was in the valley traveling on the 101 freeway before we made our way into West LA. So certainly there is some physical and psychological considerations here on the part of LAPD as they try and try and predict where this guy is going to end up. They were certainly, depending on how much information they have on him, they're well aware of where he likely resides, where he lives, or where this vehicle is registered if he owns the vehicle. Again, a lot of unknowns for us, a lot of questions still. We don't have those answers, but it certainly appears that LAPD does have a lot of those answers. And you can see in the double box there, we do have that shot from earlier of the driver basically taking a big puff out of a red inhaler. Appears to be an asthma inhaler. And that was earlier when he had the driver's side window down. I can tell you now both the driver's side and passenger window is rolled up. And again, you can see him taking a puff out of that asthma inhaler right there earlier. That was about upwards of a half hour ago when we were on the 101 freeway, right, Mark? And now we're making our way northbound, or I should say eastbound on Santa Monica Boulevard as he continues the pursuit here. Again, traveling at relatively manageable speeds, but they are still keeping their distance, not making any attempt or any preparation for a pit maneuver whatsoever, even though they could pull it off if they wanted to at this point. That does not appear to be a consideration at this point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
Well, yeah, when you've been seeing so many people right there, two people on the corner, it's so difficult to do a pit maneuver when you have pedestrians in the area. There's just so much to keep an eye on. The officers, in order to deploy that, they have to worry about pedestrians and other cars, and it's just they haven't had that opportunity. Now we're seeing some more of that marine layer, and hopefully that won't obscure the vision of the pursuing officers above in the helicopter.
Yeah, so far the LAPD air support still remaining overhead. I believe we've got both units overhead as the chase continues. Visibility certainly a little bit sketchy. By the way, we're back in the westbound direction here on Santa Monica Boulevard. So he's now basically made his way back in towards Santa Monica. He's technically, I guess you'd say we're in West LA, but he'll be approaching the Santa Monica city limits here pretty shortly as LAPD takes charge of this pursuit, or I should say maintains the supervising agency in charge of this pursuit. Again, we're traveling westbound on Santa Monica Boulevard. Lots of folks out and about, walking around. We've seen some close calls, but certainly nothing like earlier when he actually came in contact with several vehicles. When we first pulled up, I should say, he was actually entering the 101 freeway in Tarzana and actually came in contact with a red Camaro, sideswiping the red Camaro and another vehicle from earlier. But again, we haven't seen that type of erratic driving in in the past several minutes. He appears to be doing almost the speed limit, basically 30 miles per hour here through Santa Monica as LAPD continues the chase.
All right, well, we're watching this along with all of you at home. And again, this is a murder suspect believed to be armed, has experience with rifles. We don't know if there's a rifle in the vehicle with him. There is a passenger. Well, the murder suspect may be the passenger in the vehicle, and the driver is just someone who is either aiding and abetting this individual, or maybe perhaps being ordered to drive against his will under duress. But this pursuit has now continued for the better part of an hour through the San Fernando Valley, Santa Monica, and now West Los Angeles. Santa Monica Boulevard now heading into Los Angeles with the traffic at varying levels of intensity. Right now, not too bad, but as he gets to some of these lights, some of these intersections, it does tend to clog up a little bit. And several near misses along the way, as we have seen. Near misses, people
20 minutes,
red lights, and putting the public at risk. We haven't seen yet any pedestrians crossing directly in front of him at some of these crosswalks, but that could happen given the fact that he has shown no reluctance to run red lights. We don't want to see, excuse me, someone walking around in front of him that could potentially be hit. And you were seeing, again, some elements of this marine layer that forced us and the pursuing LAPD and law enforcement helicopters to back off for a time from the pursuit. But they are now back on it because, weather permitting, they're able to keep their helicopters and ours up above it. The pursuing officers on the ground, though, never lost sight of him, never gave up, and never lost him. And that is to their credit, given some of the erratic driving that has taken place. But again, this is a murder suspect. This is somebody that they are not going to just back off and let do a less intense pursuit to try to calm him down or anything like that. They're going to stay on him until this is over because they cannot afford to lose him.
Yeah, this is tracking mode at all that we've seen since we've been following it for the last hour. Tracking mode is often employed when it gets too fast, it gets too crazy, too out of control. The officers will pull back, go into tracking mode in an effort to get that person to slow down. But because they're pursuing a potential murder suspect, they're staying very closely behind. They don't want to lose this persons who are in this vehicle. They want to stay close on it. And that's what's happening. Back in Santa Monica now as we continue to follow from ABC7 HD, and great coverage by Chris Christie. By the way, we should mention this is his first day on the job here at ABC7, and he is covering a major police pursuit. It's kind of a crazy day for you, Chris. We are happy to have you here.
Only in LA. Thank you very much, Michelle. Great to be up here for you guys, and I got to tell you, what a day it's been. This guy is really giving the LAPD a run for their money. As you mentioned, he really tried to outrun them at several points during this pursuit, and at no point did they ever get more than maybe less than a quarter mile away from him as he was traveling or twisting through the San Fernando Valley earlier. Now here in West LA, they are really staying tightly behind him as he makes his way through Santa Monica. We're on 14th Street. I was getting a little nervous earlier. He was on Santa Monica Boulevard heading back towards downtown Santa Monica, where we know that 3rd Street Promenade is always so crowded this time of the day, and that would have just been a terrible situation. Now he's making his way through a more residential area northbound on 14th Street, just past Washington Avenue, as you can see here from our Sky Map 7 map. You can see he's continuing up towards the northern part of Santa Monica, North San Mo, as they say, and LAPD continuing right behind him. Again, Santa Monica PD also tracking this, as well as the LAPD airships overhead. 2 airships overhead just below the marine layer, and much lower than ABC7 HD is right now. So a lot of air traffic up here and a lot of traffic down there, as you can see several black and whites in this shot alone, but there are many more behind it. Looks like they're coming up on Montana. That is definitely Montana Avenue. You can see pedestrians with the stroller, and certainly everybody knows that something is wrong here. That's because those lights and sirens are on. LAPD is code 3 on this guy. That means this is a hot pursuit. This is not a surveillance situation. They are not in tracking mode, as you mentioned, Michelle. This is a full-on pursuit on the part of LAPD as they continue here through Santa Monica. David and Ellen, over to you.
All right, Chris Christie reporting live from ABC7 HD as we are continuing on with this pursuit. You're watching now Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock. I'm David Ono along with Ellen Levis, switching in with Mark Brown and Michelle Tuzzi. We have been covering this pursuit, Ellen, for an hour now, and the suspect so far is not giving up.
Right, began about 5 p.m. In Woodland Hills near Winnetka and Victory. We saw him go through the valley, then south on the 101 to the 405, and now in Santa Monica. We've been watching him go surface streets in Santa Monica. Possible murder suspect. Also, we believe that he is the passenger, the murder suspect, and someone else driving this truck. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, it has been a very erratic, very dangerous pursuit all afternoon. It
is made because of all the different ingredients in this pursuit. It's made for something interesting to watch and very dangerous at the same time. Trying to figure out what is going on inside the cab of this truck if, in fact, the murder suspect is the passenger who is the driver. We also observe that driver to be using an inhaler, perhaps suffering from asthma, a high-stress situation that they are dealing with. In the beginning, you heard Chris talk about how erratic their driving was. They seem to have slowed down now. Perhaps they're starting to think about giving up. Perhaps they're running low on fuel, and they're conserving. We just don't know. But we're trying to figure it out and as we continue to watch this dangerous pursuit. And keep in mind, we do know that is a murder suspect inside this cab of this truck. He is known for using the long gun, in other words, a rifle. We believe, at least this has gone out, as the suspect may be armed and is obviously very dangerous. So all of this put together, as these suspects do not give up, that is the reason why we're watching this intently, very closely, and we're also dealing with Marine Layer. Chris Christie has been over it, dealing with all of these situations. And Christie, where is he right now?
He's continuing on Montana Avenue here, just past 25th Street here in Santa Monica. A very quiet neighborhood. Certainly going to encounter a little bit more traffic as he makes his way further to the west here. But again, they are basically continuing at a relatively manageable pace. As you mentioned, David, he has really slowed down to residential street speeds here, upwards of about 25 to 30 miles per hour. So nothing too dangerous, but he is running some of those red lights and stop signs, and that is certainly a danger to the pedestrian public in this neighborhood. Certainly a little bit less foot traffic than we saw earlier, and much less than we saw earlier in downtown Santa Monica near the 3rd Street Promenade. But LAPD and the Santa Monica Police Department continuing this pursuit further north in towards Santa Monica, eventually coming up on Sanford Street here. He's going to make a left on Sanford, and that'll put him back in the westbound direction. Westbound on Stanford, I should say. Again, 2 suspects, a male driver and another suspect in the passenger seat. Looks like he was fidgeting around there with something. Not sure if he was taking another puff of that asthma inhaler that we saw really clearly earlier when he had that driver's side window up, or down, I should say. Now the driver's side window is up, and he is continuing to weave his way through here up towards the Brentwood neighborhood.
Earlier, we did see this man take some sort of substance from a bong, so we know that he's also under the influence, and we saw at least the passenger smoking from a bong, and we don't know about the driver himself doing the asthma inhaler, but there you have it. The very busy west side of Santa Monica can be very, very busy, especially this time in the evening.
Of course, we've been saying that he is a murder suspect. We don't know exactly what the murder may have been. We obviously will try to hammer all of this out when the information becomes available, but we do know this is somebody who is potentially very dangerous, and that's why this pursuit is underway. It started in Woodland Hills, has been gone on for quite some time, has wound its way through the valley, and then obviously to the west side where it sits right now as you continue to watch Air 7 HD as he navigates his way through the streets. Again, slowed way down. You can see that his speeds have diminished quite a bit. Police officers are behind him. We did see a woman react with her child a little while ago. And by the way, we're switching between 2 different helicopters right now. That's why you're seeing the shot constantly change. We have both Air 7s up right now as this pursuit is underway.
Also, we saw this this little tricky because it's been a fog in and out. We saw the Marine Layer move in.
We had that? Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris?
Yeah, it looks like, David Allen, if you can hear me, it looks like we actually have a SWAT unit joining the pursuit here, and that would be a wise decision on the part of authorities. Don't often see that, but certainly thinking ahead proactively here, this could very well turn into that type of a standoff situation, as these often do, especially suspects in this case that are as desperate as they are, wanted for very serious felonies, possibly murder suspects. In fact, this is certainly has the potential to end very tenuously. So LAPD continuing the pursuit here with a SWAT officer involved in the pursuit, in the chase, and Santa Monica PD tracking as well. We are in the Brentwood section of West LA now, and he is continuing through a very affluent neighborhood. Actually, it looks like he's coming up on, that's going to be South Bundy Drive as he makes his way through here. He's made a couple of irrational twists and turns at several points during this pursuit. Just really unpredictable, and that's one of the reasons they really haven't had the opportunity to set up any kind of a spike strip or really predict where he's going. They certainly have an idea, I would suspect, of where he lives, but he has not shown any intention of trying to move in any specific direction or make it to any specific destination. Again, this started on the north end of the valley, eventually towards the south side of the valley, south towards the 101 near Woodland Hills, traveled up the 101, then back south onto the 101 southbound, all the way to the 405, through the Sepulveda Pass, doing a number of twists and turns through West LA, in towards downtown Santa Monica. Just no real rhyme or reason. And now we're in a parking lot here off of Wilshire Boulevard. Another very stressful situation for police here because you've got pedestrian traffic. You've got folks who have no idea what's going on. They're trying to get the name of this business. It looks like it might be, I'm not sure what business that is yet, but a lot of cars in that parking lot, pedestrians walking around. The pursuit is slowing down. We're going to try and pull around the other side of this building here, but those sirens are very loud, and you know that everybody is turning their attention to the commotion in this parking lot. There you see their doors are open. They have now come to a stop here in this parking lot off of Wilshire Boulevard. We'll get a name of this business. It looks like a Ralph's parking lot. It's a Ralph's parking lot just off of Wilshire Boulevard. Police directing pedestrians to get back inside the grocery store. Both of the driver's side and the passenger side door of that suspect's vehicle remain shut down. They are instructing him to shut that vehicle off. It looks like it may be turned off. I don't see those headlights on, but they are. And here comes the driver's side door. Doors open. He's moving slowly. They're going to ask to see his hands. They are going to be very methodical. This guy is armed and dangerous, we believe, according to some of the information that we've been able to gather at our assignment desk. But you can see he is now giving up, possibly running out of gas. So he's decided to make his way into this Ralph's parking lot where this chase has come to an end. And it looks like hopefully a peaceful end here with his arms up in the air. A number of LAPD units right there ready to take this guy into custody. Arrest teams lining up. A K-9 unit on the scene. The SWAT team is already here. Not often you can say that. They are already here just in case of anything. Now, it does appear there's another pedestrian, or another person, I should say, another suspect inside the cab of that pickup truck. But first order of business is getting the driver into custody. He's giving it up here, and the next step here in the process will be to turn their attention to the passenger side of that pickup truck. So it looks like the driver is giving himself up peacefully. It's unclear which suspect is wanted for murder, but we were told maybe the passenger. But in any event, the driver and now the passenger stepping out of the vehicle and being taken into custody momentarily as LAPD conducts a very serious felony stop. Looks like that passenger has a cell phone in his hand. They don't want him to do that. They want to keep his hands empty. But it may be that they were talking to him on the phone, or maybe he was talking to a relative. He just dropped the phone and is giving it up. This pursuit is coming to a peaceful end here in West LA off of Wilshire Boulevard. David and Ellen, thank goodness nobody was hurt in this pursuit.
Look at that scene, though. A tense scene going on. This is a Ralph's grocery store parking lot right in the middle of Brentwood. Look at the manpower that is behind them, including a K-9 officer that is ready to go. These guys made the right decision, and it may be because they ran out of gas. They certainly slowed way down. Perhaps that was one we were suspecting, that perhaps they were running low on fuel and they didn't have a lot of choices. They had to either do that or run. Luckily, they are giving up. You see both suspects there on the ground, splayed out, K-9s ready to go, and a massive amount of police officers ready to take them into custody. Chris, this is an incredible scene. I'm sure you could see around that parking lot. People hopefully are out of the way, aren't they?
Yeah, police have been very quick to clear this area. No pedestrians. They want to make sure there's no chance of any kind of crossfire, just in case they have to use any kind of force. You can see there's an arrest team moving along the left side of the screen here. Officers with their guns drawn, tasers drawn, long rifles, drawn as well. Here comes the arrest team to take both of these men into custody. They are not fooling around, guys. Look at the manpower involved in this felony arrest. They call this a Code 6 and now a Code 4 as they take these two people into custody after a long, drawn-out pursuit, upwards of an hour-long pursuit that started in the Valley, ended here in West L.A. Thank goodness, very peacefully and orderly, and again, nobody hurt as far as we know.
Fortunate, because we did see him going high speeds, making desperate moves, and now, fortunately, have surrendered, and this thing has peacefully ended. That is very good news.
Yeah, Chris Christie, first day on the job.
Yes.
You did a great job for us.
Welcome to ABC7.
Yeah, thank you. In the meantime, we're going to move on to other news right now, and a lot to cover today.
Right, we have more breaking news, this time in El Segundo, where more than a dozen people became ill at a business, and some of them had to be taken to the hospital.
Eyewitness News reporter Jory Rand is live at the scene on East Maple Avenue with what we have learned. Jory?